Ready? Okay, welcome back to Conversations with Marléne and Pascale. This week, we are following on from our session last week, thinking about what it means to have a successful life, and really thinking this week about tapping into those emotions and thinking about really who are we, following on from what is a successful life, thinking about who are we doing it for, understanding our emotions and understanding whether or not we're leading a life for ourselves or for somebody else. If you don't know me already, or Marléne, my name is Pascale Lane. I'm a relationship and confidence coach, and I work with women to help them improve their relationships, improve their confidence, and live the life they truly deserve. And my good friend Marléne, over to you.
Hi, I'm Marléne Rose Shaw. I'm a therapist and a coach and a self-help author, and I help people with confidence and with relationships, specifically in the areas of being more assertive, being able to speak up, to overcome people-pleasing and set better boundaries. I work with individuals and I work with couples, and I just love what I do, as does Pascale. We're both
Absolutely
passionate about what we do, aren't we?
And we both smile when you say it, because I know how much we do both really love what we do. And actually, that's a really great segue, actually, because therein is a successful life, isn't it? Like, we are doing something that we both absolutely love. And automatically, even by you just saying it, I'm grinning it. I can feel my heartbeat my heart rate has elevated, and if nothing else, that has to constitute as a successful life, right? Doing something that makes you happy and excites you.
I think there's so many different sides to successful life, as you said in our last recording, Pascale. It's about family, it's about living in the moment, it's about balance, it's about not overworking. Because when you love what you do, you can get so carried away with it, you don't realise you're working. You get tired.
I mean, that's an excellent point. Actually, that is an excellent point, and that's goes into what you were saying last time about understanding the emotions behind it. Because I do love what I do. I really genuinely love what I do, and so it is very easy to get carried away. How would that be different, Marléne, to somebody who was working all the hours but wasn't loving what they were doing? How would you, and do we always know the difference?
I think, as I said last time, it's very much about listening to what you're feeling. Listen to I always say your feelings have your best interests at heart. They never lie to you. Your feelings cannot lie to you. You can lie to yourself, but if you actually stop and tune into your feelings, then you are being given a guide of what paths to take in life. And if you are working all hours or whatever it is, it may not be working, if you're doing something to please other people in some way, and your feeling is not a positive feeling, if it's a negative feeling or it's a heavy feeling or it's a stuck feeling, then you know that that is not leading the life that you deserve to be leading. And I think we need to be careful about this successful life label, because even that word is a little bit kind of could be self-critical or self-judging.
It's emotive,
not
successful,
isn't it?
Yeah, very emotive. Yeah.
And I think we need to define, when we say successful life, meaning getting the best out of life, having the happiest, the most joyful, the most expansive life. And it's very much about listening to feelings, isn't it? Because sometimes we can get caught up doing what we think we're meant to do for various different reasons. We people please. What are your thoughts on that, Pascale?
I've got lots of thoughts on that, Marléne. I help my clients, as do you, to to live a life that they feel happy, fulfilled, and excited about. And whenever I'm doing an initial call with any of my clients, or anybody that's reaching out to want to work with me, I always say, what is it that you want? That's my kind of like baseline. What is it that you want? What do you want for yourself in 12 months time? And inevitably they say to be happy, which has two layers for me. So first of all, isn't it so sad that there are so many people who don't feel happy and are still searching for that happiness? But then I always go a little bit deeper. What does that mean? What does being happy mean to you? Because we all have a very different picture of what happy means. So what are you doing when you're happy? Where are you? Who are you with? What does it look like? Tell me about, give me a picture of what it looks like to be happy. And then how will you know? How will you know when you've got there? Let's kind of put a marker in the sand for it, because again, this kind of ties back to what we were saying last time about what is success. And success has to be measured on fulfillment. Because we can all, and happiness, because we can all have what I call, on paper, a great life. But if we're not happy with that life, as well as I do, the amount of couples that come to us who say, everybody else thinks that we've got the perfect marriage and the beautiful home and the lovely family and the great jobs, but actually behind closed doors they're absolutely miserable. And actually that's regardless of whether they're in a relationship or not. It's about something inside which is either driving them or blocking them to having the life that they deserve. So yeah, it's I think, I said to you before, my happiness radar is about my family life. I talk a lot about my children, but I kind of, in my head, I take it for granted that means my husband too, because I know that my children are happy when I'm happy, and that I'm happy when my relationship is happy. So it all goes together. Now that's me. That isn't everybody else. I appreciate that, but I think when we are happy, everything around us falls into place. So I do talk about success. I do talk about happiness. I talk about confidence, and I talk about success, because success to me isn't, it does include material, like, because we need to have money to pay for bills and food and home, like, so there is a level of that. But actually I know that when I am happy, everything around me just is so much easier. Everything falls into place so much better when we are feeling good about ourselves. So
yeah,
that's a huge part of it for me.
It's very interesting, when you say about people appearing to be happy but not. And actually, something I'd like to say for anybody listening to this and thinking about, happiness, am I happy? What am I feeling? Have I got the right good relationship, the work, the whatever it is, the family, the stillness, the quietness, the contentment. Actually, something that I always teach people is to focus on understanding the difference between the don't wants and the do wants, because we're wired towards our don't wants. It's a survival mechanism to look around us and think about what we don't want so that we can overcome it and we can survive. And so quite often, when I ask a client, what is it that you want? What's that look like? They'll tell me, oh, well, I don't want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. I don't want. And that's fine. That is how we're wired. However, if we can then do some exercises on, well, if this is what I don't want, what does that mean that I must therefore do want? And when we can start focusing on those do wants, I think that we can start working towards achieving that. But while we stick with the, I wish he wouldn't, I wish she wouldn't, if only it wasn't, or if only it was this way instead of that way, or why haven't I got? When will I ever have? I think, all those don't wants, we kind of keep ourselves, it's like going down a dead end road. There's nowhere to go with it. There's nowhere to go. But when we start focusing on what we do want, then we have something to aim towards, and it's much more freeing.
Yeah, I'm listening, and I'm very happily reminded of our second session that we did together when we were talking about manifesting.
Yeah.
And actually the importance when we're manifesting is to, what we're asking the universe, or, God, or the source, whatever, to deliver. We must focus on what we do want and not what we don't want. And you're absolutely right. It's so easy to fall into the trap of, I always call it the always and the never. You always do this and you never do this. And we can be very, you're right, we are wired to do that, to focus on what we don't want. But actually once we flip that, and that's why writing out goals and affirmations is such a huge part of my daily practice, is to remind me excuse me, of what I do want. And I focus much less now on what I don't want, and I focus much more on what I want my life to look like, which is why it's such an important question that I ask my clients at the beginning. What is it that you want? What will it look like? How do I want my life to look? And concentrate on everything that I want to gain, whether that be from my relationships, whether that be from my personal development, whether that be inner peace, whether that be my bank balance. What do I want to gain, rather than, there's something, for anybody listening that's familiar with manifesting, or maybe if you're not, this will be quite helpful. Something that a lot of manifesting coaches, money mindset coaches talk a lot about is not to say, I don't want to be in debt. This is just a really easy one that most people, I think, will resonate with at the moment. I don't want to be in debt anymore. Well, we don't want to manifest not being in debt, because the word debt there is still there, and we're still recalling the word debt. So rather than being I want to be debt free, we want to say, I want to have X amount of money in my bank account. I want to have an abundance of XYZ. I want this to come to me with ease and flow. And we talk about all of the things that we do want. I want to spend regular time with my children, regular time with my husband. I want us to be going on regular holidays together. We concentrate on all the things that we want to achieve, rather than the things that we don't want to achieve. It's a I don't know whether it's subtle or not. I was going to say it's a really subtle shift. I feel like it's a really subtle shift, but it's an enormous shift at the same time.
Powerful. It's so powerful.
So powerful.
Life-changing. And actually it makes me think about, this question of what is a successful life. And I can't, we can't help it in our field, can we? But it comes back to this: a successful life is is personal development. It's learning how to think differently, learning to notice what you're feeling, becoming more self-aware, having more self-knowledge, navigating things in a different way. And actually just something as simple as noticing how often you think and talk about what you don't want, and just doing a little bit of practice on flipping that. I say flipping it as well. On flipping that into, and I've got exercises in my books on this specific thing as well. is huge. That's a huge success. You know, these little changes and tweaks we can make to our, you know, how we operate in the world, how we think, how we feel, how we notice our feelings, how we behave, how we react, how we respond. These little shifts, these little changes are powerful shifts. They're not little shifts, they're little changes and they're powerful shifts. And your entire life will change and become more successful in that sense by focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. And maybe that's the success. Maybe that's the success. Learning how to do life better, differently, in more effective ways. Perhaps that's the way to phrase it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think anybody listening to this that can implement that as much as possible, because I mean, you know, there again, we were talking in our last session about awareness and being honest with ourselves. And so being honest with ourselves and having that awareness isn't about being perfect and doing it all the time. You know, I myself would never ever profess to getting it right all the time, but just when you're able to catch it and go, oh damn it, I'm doing it again, you know, I think I think in itself is very, very powerful. And you know, while we're talking about it, to develop a daily practice where you are mindfully writing out your goals, your dreams, your desires. Like I said, not just for what you want to gain in terms of you know, career or bank balance, but in terms of what you want your life to look. I mean, you know that I practice this daily, writing out, you know, what I want my life to look like in terms of our move, my family life, my health, my body, my well-being, my relationship, as well as my business goals, my financial goals, and all the rest of it. And just having that daily practice means that it's very difficult. I always know if I'm in a slump, I've fallen off the wagon somewhere with that practice. And I also have affirmations which I listen to walking home from school when I drop the girls off. And so often during school holidays, when I'm not doing that walk and I haven't got that 20 minutes in my ear of me, you know, repeating these positive messages to myself, it can be very easy to slide.
It's an ongoing practice. And one thing I you know, I often say to people is, don't force yourself not to think negatively, because all you do is you give that negativity more and more power. You make it bigger and bigger. Just notice it and follow it up with.
Yes.
So if you're thinking, oh, I don't want this and I don't want that, and you notice that's okay. That's just your brain doing what brains do. But then add to it, okay, well, if that's what I don't want, what does that mean I do want? Okay, so I do want that. And is what helps to actually build that muscle. If you say, oh no, I've had this negative thought, that's terrible.
Yeah.
It makes it harder.
Feel the feelings. Feel the feel. I think that's you know, that's a very great point that you make, which can apply to everyone in any circumstance, is that we don't want to be pushing feelings away.
No.
I mean, it feels on the surface, it feels easier to push them away. I know that's a bit of a paradox, but actually feel the feelings and then adjust and correct.
Yeah. I'm very curious about this successful life thing. I know I keep coming back to it because I want people to really embrace it as a positive thing rather than something they feel they have to live up to.
Well, I mean, there again, you know, living up to by whose standards? Who are we living our life for?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that is something that most people, I won't make a huge sweeping statement, but I think most people aren't always that honest with themselves about. I think a lot of people, and I've been there myself, so I get it completely, live a life that is not necessarily honest and true to themselves, but maybe because it's easier, maybe because it's what they felt that they had to do, not necessarily in a pressurized way, but you know that's how they'd been nurtured growing up to do these things, to be a certain way, and so there is something there about really sitting with your emotions, sitting with yourself, and being truly reflective about what is it that I actually, what would you like to do if there were no barriers, if there were no ifs or buts, if it was just you doing what you're following your heart, what would you love to do?
Yeah, that's a big question for people, isn't it?
It is a
Something
big
that they're
question.
not used to. They're not used to thinking about. And it's nice to think about, just play with it. I sometimes say to people, just play with it. It doesn't have to be a big decision that you have to follow. Let's just play with your imagination and see what comes up. And that can be very freeing.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, fab. Well, that's another great session, Marléne. Thank you. I hope everybody watching these is getting as much enjoyment out of it as I am, and I think you are too, because I really enjoy doing them.
So what do we want to say as we draw to a close here today for people? What message do we want to give people to help them to really understand what a successful life is for them, and how to really focus on that in a positive way rather than a heavy negative have to way, don't want way?
I think for me, it's about being really clear about what success means to you. And having a very honest conversation with yourself, and maybe with your partner or your friends. I mean, this doesn't have to be a solo journey. I chew the fat with my husband and my best friend, mostly my best friend, to be honest with you, all the time, around our motivations as well. Like, we talk about what we want and what she's a coach as well. She's in a very different field to me, but we're both business owners and coaches, and so what motivates us. And so I would ask you, and people listening, what motivates you, what is driving you, and also a really big question again that I mentioned earlier was, how will you know when you've got there? Like, for me, that most people know that I'm moving to Spain sooner rather than later. Is that going to be my golden ticket? Like, am I going to get to Spain having, what feels like been such a long journey to get there? Will I be satisfied, or am I then going to move the goalpost again? And what will that look like when I inevitably do? So, it's I think it's about it is about understanding what that success means, but also when will you know that you've arrived? Yeah. And writing out your gratitude and your goals as well, which I think is essential for everybody.
I think also I'd like to say, just chill out, be happy, you're doing great. Full stop.
Full stop. That's it. I mean, like, you are enough.
I think we're wonderful. We're wonderful.
Yeah.
Because we just need to remember it and remind each other sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And take time to appreciate it.
Thank you, Pascale.
Thank you, Marléne. Thank you for you. Brilliant. Okay. All right. And we'll yeah, and like I said, anybody who wants to subscribe to our YouTube channel, there's 4 videos on there now with this one. We're going to be doing these weekly. So if you want to get your weekly notifications, then I will sort out a link and put it here and you can subscribe. And if you've got any questions and you want to reach out to speak to Marléne or myself about working together, then drop us either a direct message or hit the link in the blurb where you can contact each of us directly. Great. All right. Have a lovely rest of the day. Catch up with you soon.
Bye-bye.